Welcome everybody. Welcome everybody. This is, I think, our last panel discussion. We've had a number of webinars and panel discussions up to this point related to the corrosion inhibitor joint industry project that we've had going on for the last, I think, 2 or 3 years. And um, this discussion is specifically going to be a group of subject matter experts in the area of corrosion inhibitor uh, treatment in the oil and gas industry. Um, I'll give just a little bit of background on the JIP first. So it consists of 3 phases, and we're currently um, just starting phase 3 of the joint industry project, which is going to be focused on further developing the laboratory screening tests and trying to develop precision statements for those tests, basically to drive towards a little bit better standardization of how the industry is evaluating corrosion inhibitor efficacy. Um, Phases 1 and 2 were more focused on just trying to collect the general best practices that are used throughout the industry and uh, try to narrow the focus a little bit more on which tests are out there, which tests may need standardization, and just generally what people are doing in terms of uh, field monitoring and things like that. So um, that's kind of where we are currently. Um, when you think about corrosion inhibitor testing, you can categorize them into 2 general categories. You have screening tests, and this is really what phase 3 of the JIP is going to be focused on, is trying to get some standardization on the the common, maybe shorter duration screening testing that suppliers and operators could do to be able to compare chemistries a little bit more apples to apples with each other. And I think we recognize that there is still always going to be a need for modifying the test conditions to get closer to actual field operating conditions, and maybe running some more complex or longer duration testing to really narrow down the product that's going to be best for a particular application. So we call those selection tests, and those are not within the scope of phase 3. So we're really focused on trying to get some standardization on the screening side. Um, so basically, so different products and different chemistries can be compared a little bit more apples to apples, depending on the application that you have. So like I said, this is our last panel discussion. We've had a few already. We had, first one was a group of oil transmission pipeline operators. So that includes my company. We were involved in that first one. And then oil and gas producers, chemical vendors or suppliers, testing laboratories, and then finally we have a group of subject matter experts on the call today that I think looking forward to the discussion. Um, so my name's Stephen Arnold. I'm with the company called Flint Hills Resources. Like I said, we're a refining company and oil transmission pipeline operator. So I'll be moderating the panel today, and then we have a group of panelists on the call, which you can see the list here. And we've got a list of questions that we'll go through. I think to start, I will focus on the first couple of questions and maybe ask those together. So why do you think development of standard test methods is important? And what do you think might be some issues that we would encounter if we don't develop standard test methods? I'll kind of ask everybody to maybe address those 2 questions together in the first round, and then we'll kind of come around and address the other questions. And I'd ask each panelist the first time you speak, if you could give a little bit background on yourself, introduce yourself, and then we can go from there if that works. So I will unshare my screen here so we can see the video. And then I'm just going to go maybe top down off my screen. The first name I see is Brian Burgess. Brian, I'll kick it over to you if you want to introduce yourself real quick, and then talk about why you think standard test methods for corrosion inhibitors are important for the industry.
Sure. Yeah, thanks very much. I'm Brian Burgess. I've spent 40 years in upstream production, 15 in Western Canada and 25 in Saudi Arabia. There was onshore and offshore. As to why standard method development is important, I think it is a benefit to all parties. End users would be able to reliably source evaluations from a broader list of testing facilities. They'd be able to compare results obtained from conforming labs with more certainty and confidence. Testing labs would be able to demonstrate verifiable performance capabilities, and then would be able to expand their client base. And the chemical suppliers using the same protocols would be able to provide clients with data in an understood format. Potentially some of the issues or challenges, I would expect that if these developments didn't progress, then likely there's a potential for regulators to get involved and force a direction of testing or compliance that might not be suitable to all parties. Thanks.
Yeah, thanks, Brian. Next name I've got on my screen is Bud. If you want to go ahead and introduce yourself as well.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks. First of all, I'd like to thank Sankara and Trevor and everybody who participated in this. It's been a great forum. Bud Melvin, I guess I'm coming up to about 53 years in this industry now. I started off on the production operations, well testing and line testing, and then got recruited to go work for Champion, where I spent 25 years. And I've spent about an additional 8 years, I guess, consulting to other chemical companies over the years. Was a partner in an engineering company and a lab company in Calgary, and been consulting part-time since. I hope you don't mind. I'm going to read my reply that I put some thought to before I came on. In my initial interviews with Sankara, I said that field surveys and system profiles were very important in setting up screening tests and selection tests before determining test methods. I believe a thorough understanding of operating conditions, including analysis of fluids and gas, solids, other chemicals and system failure history, application techniques, available monitoring possibilities, are important information for test design. The right apparatus and analytical techniques should be based on this understanding. Test apparatus is rarely limited to single techniques and may require a suite of tests to fully understand the corrosion mechanism and how an inhibitor will perform under these conditions. Developing standards, if possible, is a step in the right direction. My comment.
Okay, great. Thanks. Let's see. Next on the list, I see Anil. If you could introduce yourself, and then why do you think development of standard test methods is important, and what issues do you think we might encounter if we don't develop standard test methods? It looks like you're on mute. May need to unmute there. And Neil, I think you're on mute if you can hear me still.
Yeah.
There you go.
I joined upstream oil and gas industry in 1983, 43 years of experience. Initial few years I worked on emulsions in upstream, and then onwards I took on to the corrosion subject and have been working on various aspects of corrosion. Of late, the specific focus has been on internal corrosion of pipelines and all aspects of that, including corrosion inhibition and then materials and pigging and bacterial corrosion. Now, coming to the two questions which have been posed, that why do we think development of standard test method is important? I would like to mention a case in a laboratory. There used to be samples coming from time to time for evaluation. The laboratory will evaluate those samples according to the set procedures which they had defined and given it to the vendor also. Now, in the laboratory, they will test it. Sometimes the sample will pass and sometimes the sample will fail. Now, the vendor will contest whenever the sample will fail, and there used to be a lot of debate, discussion, and sometimes go to the court also for that purpose. So that was one laboratory. Then in another laboratory, they had a very, very simple way that if they were a small operator, so whatever the vendor will recommend as the best case for the particular application, they will accept it as it is and then do some monitoring. And over a period of time, the reliability was in terms of no failures. Then there is another vendor, another operator who has very high level of laboratory setup, going up to the advanced test for about 500 hours, and they will evaluate do the screening as well as then final evaluation for the long term. So in coming across all these operators and the way of evaluating the corrosion inhibitor, it was found that always there is a issue when the sample fails. One is accepting it and other is saying that it doesn't qualify the criteria. So because of this, then it becomes important that precision level should be fixed. And if one laboratory has tested it up to conducted all those tests, then that particular test becomes acceptable for everyone. And because of then the issues, legal issues, as well as the reputational issues will not arise. So such a standards will definitely be useful for the industry. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next we have Reg McDonald.
Thanks, Stephen. Yes, I'm currently, working part-time with what's Iris NDT, or now APAV Canada. And I've been working in the industry, I guess it's 45 plus years, most of that in the upstream world, where internal corrosion and management of it's really important. And if you weren't doing it properly, you saw results firsthand, and often in a very negative way, both for company profits, industry reputation, etc. Certainly, the idea of having a standard test method is, in some of the earlier groups, earlier panels, they talk about, you need to have trust between the players, the chemical companies that develop these products, and their expertise is extremely valuable. They're the guys that know the building blocks and what will work in certain environments. And I agree very much with what Bud says. What's in the environment and how it impacts corrosion, very important to which chemical you're going to use and how you're going to use it and how much. All of those kind of things, extremely important. And so certainly in the upstream world, probably most of the testing, and certainly a lot of the testing of higher pressure, high temperatures, and under field like conditions in the laboratory I did with Shell Canada. And we certainly, probably, our screening tests were perhaps more like what's been described in this whole framework as more the selection tests, where you're testing under specific conditions in the environment. And so I think within the industry, lots of companies, both owners, operators, as well as the chemical companies, have lots of experience as to what works, what doesn't. And so if you wanted to improve and go forward and start to even, select better building blocks to get better performance, I think this sort of standard test method is a step to where everybody feels a bit more comfortable with the results, and as opposed to just seeing case histories published, year in and year out of what someone had a problem and then they resolve it somehow. But you'd get a more collective, I'm hoping, you'd get a more collective learning, and you'd start to make more improvements across the industry. So those are my comments. Thanks.
Great, thanks. Okay, last we have Yusuf. If you could introduce yourself and then speak to why standard test methods are important and what you think some of the issues may be if we don't develop standard test methods.
Yeah, good morning all, and nice to see all of the friends here in this panel. Standard methods really going to be very important for the industry, especially coming from experienced people like the people who are here, Sankara, and you guys worked many years with the chemical inhibitors and testing. So it's always great to tell the industry what are the testing. I know there are many test methods and many standards. However, coming from you guys will really mean a lot to the industry. You guys are well known to the industry, especially for us. Oh, by the way, I'm sorry, I didn't introduce myself. Yusuf Krebet, I am internal corrosion. I was internal corrosion specialist in Kuwait Oil Company, and I retired since, and now I'm joining a company named Spetco as a manager of quality control. So I would be now it's going to shift from the technical to managing and utilizing these, for example, standard methods. So they are very important for a person like me in the management, knowing where and what to utilize and who to take the information from. So this is, for example, why it's important. I can take it from people known for quality control. Now, for our problems with the testing and in the oil and gas industry, the issue is, to be honest, is the position with the field data and the laboratory. Sometimes the chemicals pass the screening, the laboratory screening. However, when it comes to perform in the field, it doesn't perform similarly. So if we can simulate in the laboratory, like we can put like a set of try to simulate as much as we can to the process streams, for example, in the crude streams or the water streams or the gas streams, if it's possible. And we can get a better data, we can get better results. And then the most important is we need to do also the field correlation and field testing. So this is going to be very important if we can get something like that, some sort of side stream testing. It would be really great to have these from laboratory, and from this it will help to the industry. And what we can do is whatever can come from the results that can come for me in Kuwait. I'm sure we can talk to the management in all the oil and gas in Kuwait, for example, and push forward for them to take it from basically the best people who working in the world. So that's what I wanted to share from my side.
Yeah, thanks. And I think that's a good transition into the next question, which is what do you think are challenges and opportunities related to the development of standard test methods? So Yusuf, you talked about there can sometimes be this disconnect between the field performance versus the lab results. And I could imagine if we try to standardize test methods, there could be a risk that that those standard conditions maybe are getting a little further away from the field conditions, right? So I don't know, Yusuf, if you have any further comment on that. Is that a challenge that we have, or how do we bridge that gap between the field performance and the lab testing?
Yeah. So based on my experience, of course, I have the least experience from the guys. I'm with 25 years of experience, but our monitoring program in Kuwait Oil Company is one of the largest in the world, with about 15,000 locations to monitor. And many times we use them to monitor the chemical performance as such. So the issues we see again is in the field they don't perform as well. So my suggestion would be side stream testing would be it have to be done in one of these major oil companies, or if you guys have the location to do it, would be a plus to give to give it more credibility, and it can be more it can reach the other managements real quicker. So I know if you guys need to set it up in Kuwait, we can do it, but it have to be done. Some testing have to be done on actual streams and different streams, like crude, water, gas. If it can be done, it will be really beneficial. This is the only thing I've seen over the years is the environment in the lab is not simulating like. Oh, if you hear all our friends here in the panel, they said the same thing. The environment. It have to be the same, salinity, the pH, and all that stuff. And then there are other things in the field that cannot be done in the laboratory, like for example the stresses, the other things you don't know how it can affect the chemical treatment or chemical inhibitor testing, or the mechanisms. It means these things. So it's better always to have both worlds, where you can try to simulate worst case conditions, or maybe a set of every stream have some sort of data that can be simulated in the lab, and then to do it in actual streams would put a lot of credibility. And yeah, so that's what. Sorry if I was too long with my answer.
Yeah, thanks. So I think I'll just to make sure that we save some time at the end for some open discussion. I want to try to at least get a couple of the other panelists on this third question about challenges or opportunities that we might have to standard test methods. So for any of the panelists, if you feel strongly about this question, if you want to raise your hand either on the screen or in the chat, I'll make sure I get to you. But I think I want to first go to Brian, because Brian, you mentioned maybe there is some regulatory risk if we don't develop standards. So I could see that being a challenge or an opportunity. If you can maybe speak to that, or if you have any other challenges in mind that you wanted to talk about, Brian.
Yeah, sure. I don't know if you've have noticed that AMP recently, within the last couple of days, issued U.S. Pipeline Industry 2026 leading failures, new technologies, and future outlooks. And in one part of that was information derived from PHMSA, and one of the commentaries that they make in it is 25.1% of all pipeline incidents are corrosion, and 19.6% of those are internal corrosion. And it states, highlighting the importance of active fluid monitoring, chemical treatment, and inline inspection programs. So it's already known that there's a significant issue with internal corrosion. And if there's not a focus on being able to develop testing that's cross-board comparable, I think there could be a driving force that takes us in a direction that we might not want to go. I also see a challenge as phase 3 is developing screening tests. And for screening tests, we're doing a much different thing than we would want to do for environmental exposure for in-field use. That could be phases 4 through X. And it's going to be very difficult to develop field testing that can be cross-industry comparable. And not that that doesn't need to be done, it's going to have to be done, but the difficulty to me is going to be taking phase 3 and developing it into a phase 4 or greater. You might say that getting through phase 3 is comparable to getting to Everest Base Camp. Getting through phase 4, 5, 6 is what you need to reach the summit and get end users happy with laboratory testing and its ability to simulate actual field conditions. And that's basically the summary, I guess. Thanks.
Right. I will kick it over to Bud if you have any thoughts on that question number 3 about challenges and opportunities.
Sure, I'm just going to make a couple of comments. And I guess sort of mirrors something that Brian said there is, I have consideration should be given to test equipment used, the advantages and disadvantages of various test equipment relative to inhibitor selection for various types of production and process conditions. So whether that's downhole or pigging in the pipeline, or something where there's liquid holdup or solids in the bottom of the pipeline, there's various different types of equipment that have advantages and disadvantages. We've all been involved in helping to rewrite standards or rewrite education courses, or helping to move things forward. And as we know, it takes a lot of time and effort, and to try and get consensus is not an easy task. So I agree that if we don't get our heads wrapped around this, that we could find ourselves in a regulatory environment that is different than we would like to see it. So I think, like what we're doing today and what you folks are going to do in Houston on Sunday, et cetera, is very important. But it's going to take a lot of time and effort to get where we want to be. My comment.
Okay, thanks. So I think what we'll do now is sort of move on to the next question, and we may focus on this specifically for a minute at least. So from your experience, in terms of changes related to corrosion inhibitor testing, what what do you guys see, who do you guys see as the primary group in the industry that tends to lead those changes? Is it regulators or service providers or some other group? And I'll go to Anil first. Looks like Anil is off mute and maybe has some thoughts on that. Or if you'd like to address some of the challenges and opportunities, feel free to do that as well.
First, I would like to say something on challenges and opportunities. As told by others also, there are a lot many variables. So accommodating all those variables for the screening test is one of the biggest challenges. And the second one is that I have seen in the laboratories, if a person changes, the result change. So as has been said that in some of the laboratories, to calibrate the testing person first against some standard tests so that the results which are being reported are reproducible. So that is a big challenge in some of the laboratories I have seen. Whenever there is a person changing, the results which are coming with respect to the corrosion inhibitors, they also change. And then the results are challenged somewhere. So even if we develop a good test, with that, the training and the familiarization of the persons who will be conducting that in the laboratory, that will also be an important and significant part of that. So as regards that, who bring in this all, there have been requirements from the operator that how I can manage with less in terms of the chemical consumption and less in terms of the cost. So one of the requirements come from the operator. Then from time to time, the vendors or the chemical manufacturers themselves have revised, improvised their chemistries. So the two work together, then new products have been coming into the market. So it has been that it's not that a single, there will be a single reason for coming up of the new product, new ideas, that it will be a combination requirement from them and from one and the development at the other ends. So all those will go hand in hand, not a single one will be the responsible. Thank you.
Yep, thanks. I'll go to Reg next. If you have any thoughts on either question 3 or question 4 about challenges and who tends to lead these developments, or is it a combination of different folks in the industry?
Well, I think the challenges sometimes are corrosion has already occurred in the pipeline system of interest, and corrosion exists to a certain degree, and the owner company is trying to mitigate it after it's already initiated. And so a lot of the testing challenges, or one of them, is you want to pre-corrode a coupon before applying an inhibitor onto it. And how an inhibitor and the chemistry work is certainly affected by, a layer of, I'll call it corrosion products typically, as opposed to water scales or anything else. But and how it performs is it's important, because in the field, that's what happens. It's not always a pure, pristine surface. So that's one thing. The other thing that I've noticed, and in my experience, if you have a low H2S level in your environment, and this is one of the, as Yusuf mentioned, there are some critical variables, and the other fellows have mentioned this too. What are the critical variables to the corrosion mechanism within your system? You need to know those and almost understand changes over time could impact the inhibitor you select. And but low H2S levels in a laboratory are very difficult to simulate because you put a certain percentage into the gas stream and the water within your, whether it's a 1 liter a container, it absorbs all that H2S, so there is no H2S or very little in the gas phase anymore. And so the challenge of kind of preloading your test, and so are these things important in the screening? Well, I think they are. And you need to understand what's in your environment. And the companies that have led this are often, the owner companies that have either new fields they've developed and they bring challenging environments that maybe weren't dealt with before. So they're working, and it's always, in my experience, you need to work hand in hand with the companies, the chemical companies that develop these. They're chemists and experts as to how they formulate inhibitors, because they're a mixture of various things for various purposes. And so those are really important. And in the past, I've noted some operating companies don't trust the chemical companies, and vice versa. So if there's anything that enhances how the two work together, you'll get a better result in the end. That's all I have.
Great. So for any of the panelists, at any time, if you've got any comments on some of the other folks' responses, feel free to come off mute or raise your hand, and we can have a little bit of open dialogue here as well. I think in the interest of time, we will move on to question 5, and I'll go back to Brian. Brian, if you have any thoughts on once standard test methods are developed, how you think those may get developed within the industry, or implemented, I should say, within the industry. If you could speak to that, and then feel free to address some of the other questions as well, if you'd like to.
Yeah, thanks. Screening testing as phase 3 seems to be moving forward for development. I think it's beneficial to all the parties, and that makes successful deployment almost self-sustaining. Once everybody realizes that there's a laboratory comparison test or a screening test that's consistent across laboratories, I think you'll find that it's a lot easier to compare results from various studies, and having a standardized test suite that everybody can implement probably will lead to economies of scale and reductions in costs, etc. The difficulty with that, I think, becomes understanding, as everybody has been pointing out, laboratory testing for screening is more or less giving you a group of chemicals that you might want to say would be beneficial in your system. The testing to field environments is a much bigger step. I think that's basically all I've got on that. Thank you very much.
Brian. I'll go to Bud next. Your thoughts on how standard test methods would be implemented once they're developed.
I'm not sure I have much more to add other than what's already been said. However, I know that when when folks get to Houston, that this is going to be a topic that will be discussed a lot more. And I think I'm going to leave that comment in the hands of people who are actually implementing things now. I'm a little bit separated from that, but again, I think different test equipment for different environments is going to create different standards, I think. So it's not going to be one standard, it's going to be multiple standards for different applications. And I look forward to hearing what the group has to say after the meeting in Houston. Anyhow.
Yep. Great. I'll go to Anil next. So Anil, if you have any thoughts on the implementation of standard test methods, I've seen some of the previous panel discussions, some thoughts on maybe suppliers would be the ones performing these screening tests under the standard conditions, and then I've seen other folks seeing it being implemented more on the operator side, for example. So I don't know if you have any thoughts on that, or is it a combination of both?
Yeah, it is a combination of both. Some operators I know, they do the screening and advanced level testing also, and then testing it in the field through corrosion monitoring tools. Now, one of the issues of taking it to in general in the industry, I'll give an example. This rotating cage, when developed, it was it came out with a good level of precision and was highlighted. I saw some of the laboratories working on that could not create that level of repeatability. And then finally saying that, no, I would not like to go with it. Whatever is available with me, I have been doing it in the past. That's good enough for me. This new test method is not leading me to any advanced level of testing or screening. So whatever test method will be developed and comes, if it becomes adaptable by the laboratory easily, or special training or special instructions, without that, it may be sometimes difficult for some of the laboratories to adopt it. So whatever precision is mentioned in the test method, achieving that level of precision in each and every laboratory or whosoever wants to adopt, that will be an important criteria or the reason for getting its acceptability. So instructions, precautions, sources of error, training may perhaps be able to help in that case.
Yeah, so one challenge is getting all the different parties to perform the same test or the same procedure, and then a separate challenge is how do you ensure that the test results are comparable between different labs, right? Even if they're performing the same.
I have seen in laboratories persons changing previous person giving a very good repeatable results with the simple test like this dynamic test, wheel test. The second person comes and starts generating, and the results are variable. And then there is an issue because there is a chemical line. We have to clear it before before that the test report is to be issued. And the test report says that there is corrosion rates are very high. So therefore, some kind of assurance that for everyone, like when I'm saying that it's like a titration, going it a very simple, whosoever learns it a minimal in the laboratory will be able to reproduce when one replaces the other. Why I'm always talking about one replaces the other? Because that's a general case in the industry. So therefore, it becomes that it should be adaptable easily, or if it is not, then what is lacking, which is making it adaptable, so that the purpose of this test will be enhancement of precision or the precision levels. That should be met easily. Thank you.
Yep. Okay. So at this point, I think I'll open it up to the entire panel. If you have any other thoughts that we haven't covered, or maybe some personal experiences that you think might be relevant to the discussion, feel free to come off of mute if you have anything you'd like to add, or maybe respond to something one of the other panelists has mentioned.
Yes, hello, Yusuf again.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yes, as I mentioned, and like also the people in the panel, if we can like identify the gaps, the problems, and try to do and come up with a proper testing method with laboratory results and screening. Definitely, the oil and gas, we will be the main drivers with this. So I know in the region here, in the Gulf region, yeah, I hope let's hope the war finish quickly. But in the Gulf region, they would immediately take these whatever results gonna come from whatever results you can provide. They will immediately implement it. I'm sure it can be implemented, and then subsequently this can also be used, in the States. Or so the main target would be the oil and gas, and especially in this region, they would immediately utilize whatever result and use it in the field. So that's number one. The other thing, I think this is just an advice from my side. If you guys can do testing in the fields, like field testing in the actual companies, if they would allow it, that would be really great. So you guys can have different results from different oil companies, either the participating companies in the GIP, or even if other companies would like Mr. Brian said, in the next phases, if they would like to have like some sort of on a R&D basis, like they can utilize like some streams. That would be great for the study. Just some of the things I just wanted to share.
Okay. Any of the other panelists, any more thoughts you'd like to add, or anything we didn't cover that you think is important?
Yeah, I might chime in for the panel that's going to be opening up on when is it, on Sunday, March 15th. I would suggest possibly that they begin to consider phase 4 and future developments. I know it's not part of the phase 3, but certainly how we can take the standardized testing for screening and develop that to what seems to be the biggest issue right now, is making sure that whatever testing is done in the lab can successfully mimic field performance, or at least get a lot closer to it. Thanks.
Thanks, Brian. Do we have anybody in the audience that has any questions for the panelists, or anything they would like to add to the discussion? Okay. Not seeing any hands raised. Anil, have you got?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So when you're asking about that, who will be eager to adopt such a method? I think the chemical manufacturers will be the first to adopt this method because they will then have screened data available for the operator or the user. They will be definitely more interested in test which has a universal acceptability.
Yeah, one of the things we talked about on the crude oil transmission panel was, or at least one of the things I think I mentioned was that hopefully this, if you have a more of a standard suite of tests that can be run, it makes the whole process a little bit more transparent for everybody, right? So if you're a supplier, um, maybe you can see a little bit clearer path to um, getting new products or new technologies accepted in the market, right? Because there's sort of a standardized
Correct.
way of testing those things.
Yeah, so for the chemical manufacturers, then it will be become more easy because that's now different chemical manufacturers have their own tests also, and some of the normally accepted tests. So once there is a standard universally accepted test, so they will be able to generate data as per that and put it before the client or the operator user. So that helps them a lot. That solves a lot of problems because so far there is uncertainty in what method they tested and what method operator tested.
Yeah, I think Reg, you kind of mentioned as well. Sometimes there can maybe be a little bit of a trust barrier
Okay.
between the operator and supplier side,
Yes.
right? I think some of that is it's lack of standardization, right? You want to compare products, but you never really know for sure if the results are truly comparable, right?
Yeah.
So there's a little bit of a rub there on that makes it sometimes hard to trust, maybe.
Yeah. So, yeah. The trust value will increase.
Well, I think if you standardize tests, and I guess I think of ASTM, like for example, you end up with something that evolves over time. It becomes a living to which interested parties, both on the chemical developer side, both on the testing side, as well as owner operators, they can all participate and lead to a kind of an evolution and change and improvement over time. And hopefully you don't water things out to where, maybe some users would say, well, that was just the screening test, and in the end, we need to do something much more detailed for our application. So, yeah, there's lots of pros to going to a standard.
Yeah. As I think has been mentioned in one of the presentations that for the screening purposes, there will be 5 set of environments, which will be guideline for this screening test. So when the chemical supplier or the chemical manufacturer has tested various chemicals with that standard method, and for those different test compositions and environments, so that makes uh, more acceptability that which out of that will be usable for the particular case of an operator.
Thanks. I see a comment in the chat. Frank, there, chemical suppliers benchmarking chemistries using standard test results, test labs verifying the results, producers confirming the field performance. All these things are going to improve the process, right? So it's a good
Yes.
comment there. Um, Sankara, so we've got a few minutes left. Is there anything you'd like to say? Or I know with the AMP conference coming up next week, do you want to give a plug for anything in the last few minutes?
Right. Thanks, Stephen. No, I don't want to have anything to add, but I would like to go around the panelists to if they have any last minute say before we kind of close. If you want to go around them, yeah, thank you. But very good discussion, Stephen.
Yeah, so maybe real quick, we'll just go round robin. Brian, if you've got any closing comments?
Not from me, thank you. I think there's a lot of good points brought up in this discussion, and I hope that the future developments bear strong fruit. Thanks.
Yep. Okay. Bud, anything you'd like to add?
But thanks for the opportunity to participate today, and it was great to see some old friends on this panel and to meet some new ones. Thank you.
Yep. Okay. Anil?
Thank you. It was a great learning going through all. I couldn't attend all the 15, but whichever I attended, it was a great learning. Thank you.
Yep. Okay, we'll go to Reg next.
Oh, like the others, thank you very much for the opportunity to participate. And I have nothing further to add. There are lots of good points, and add them to the other panel discussions. There's lots to go forward with. Thank you.
Okay, and then Yusuf, anything you'd like to say to close it
Thank
out?
you. Yeah, thank you very much for putting me on the panel with all the friends and the new friends as well. And I really hope that this thing can get to be done. And because I know for a fact that we have gaps in the industry, and they will jump on it immediately. As far as in this region, they will jump on it immediately. So all the best, and we would do all we can to make you whatever results you guys want to realize. We would do all that need to be done to because I know if we're talking about the names in this panel or in the GIP, they are well known in the industry, and everybody will jump on it immediately in this region. Thank you.
Okay, well, I think that about wraps it up. So just say thanks again to all the panelists for your time here this morning or afternoon or whatever it is, wherever you're located. And with that, I think we can go ahead and close the meeting. So thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank
Thanks.
you,
Thank you.
Stephen.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.